welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book Read People Like a Book. Have you ever wished you could just know what someone was really thinking? Well, it turns out that reading people isn't some kind of superpower, but it's actually a skill you can learn. So let's dive right in.
So let me ask you a question and be honest with yourself. How good do you really think you are at reading people, at sizing them up? I mean, most of us feel like we have a pretty solid gut instinct for it, right? But what if I told you that our confidence might be a little, misplaced? And that right there is the central problem, the big idea we have to tackle first. There's this massive gap between how accurate we think we are and how accurate we actually are. It's a bit of a humbling thought, for sure, but it's also the very first step toward genuinely getting better at this.
All right, the great judgment gap. Why our confidence outweighs our accuracy. So why are we so often wrong? Well, it really comes down to our own biases, our projections, and a huge lack of context. We're constantly misinterpreting signals. We see one little action and we jump to a conclusion, filling in all the blanks with our own stories instead of what's really going on.
But here's the good news. This isn't some personal failing. It's just a lack of training. The solution is to stop guessing and start developing the skill of true observation. It's about moving from assumption to actual analysis.
So, this next idea, this is the absolute foundation for reading people accurately. If you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, make it this. You have to establish a person's baseline.
So what is a baseline? Simply put, it's how a person acts when they're just them, when they're calm, comfortable, not under any pressure. It's their unique personal normal. Think about it. It makes perfect sense. You can't possibly spot what's unusual if you have no idea what's usual for that specific person.
And this chart right here shows you the difference perfectly. Guessing is seeing someone tap their foot and just assuming, oh, they're nervous. Observing, on the other hand, is knowing that person never taps their foot, so when they suddenly start, it signals a genuine shift in their emotional state. We're looking for the change, not the action itself.
Okay, next section. Clusters, not single cues. This is how to avoid those really common misreads. Because spotting a single deviation from the baseline, well, that's just the beginning. To really avoid misreading the situation, you need more evidence. You gotta look for clusters of behavior.
And here's the perfect example, a classic one. Pop psychology loves to tell us that crossed arms automatically means someone is defensive or closed off. But that's such a classic misread. It could mean a dozen different things. Maybe the AC is just blasting and they're cold. By itself, a single gesture is basically meaningless data.
So to combat this, the book gives us a really simple tool, the rule of 3. The idea is, don't draw any conclusions until you spot a cluster of at least 3 consistent signals all pointing in the same direction. So, you see crossed arms, plus they're leaning away from you, plus they're only giving you one-word answers. Okay, now that starts to tell a much more reliable story.
So here are a few other powerful signals to add to your observational toolkit. First, remember that people have way less conscious control over their feet, so always pay attention to where they're pointed. Also, look for those little self-soothing gestures, what we call pacifying behaviors, like touching their neck or rubbing their leg. Those are huge indicators of stress. And finally, watch for those tiny, split-second micro-expressions that flash a person's true emotion before their social mask goes right back on.
All right, next section, decoding deeper drivers, which is all about understanding personality patterns. So we've covered observing those in-the-moment signals, but to truly understand and maybe even predict behavior, we need to go deeper and look for the consistent, long-term patterns that are driven by someone's core personality.
And the book offers this fantastic, simplified framework to help you quickly assess who you're dealing with. Are they a task-focused director, a people-person socializer, a cautious, detail-oriented thinker, or maybe a harmony-driven supporter who avoids conflict? Just knowing this helps you calibrate your own communication for a much, much better interaction. And this brings us to a really important point, the empathy superpower, the true goal of reading people. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds a little, calculating, like you're trying to get some kind of advantage over people. But the crucial point is that the true goal isn't about that at all. It's about achieving something way more powerful,
The end game here is not manipulation, it's connection. All of these skills are really just tools for developing a kind of radical empathy. When you can more accurately understand what someone is feeling or thinking, you can communicate better, you can avoid silly misunderstandings, and you can build genuinely stronger relationships.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. People aren't these unsolvable puzzles. They're a collection of patterns. And once you learn to see those patterns in their behavior, their words, and their personality, you unlock a whole new level of understanding and, most importantly, connection.
So, my final question for you is this. How are you going to use this to better understand someone in your life, starting today? Don't just learn it, try it out. Pick one person, a coworker, a friend, a family member, and just quietly try to establish their baseline. See what you notice. And hey, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.